Time is a river, but in one place on earth it seems to stand still. They call it the Eternal City, Roma. For nearly 3 millennia, these 7 hills have witnessed the rise and fall of empires, the birth of modern law, and the pinnacle of human artistry. To walk through Rome is not merely to visit a city, it is to navigate the layers of human history itself, stacked stone upon stone, myth upon myth. In this journey, we move beyond the postcards. We dive deep into the shadows of the Colosseum, wander the silent corridors of the Palatine Hill, and breathe the incense-heavy air of the Vatican. This is the story of Rome, a city that refused to die, and in doing so, became the blueprint for the world. Every great titan has a beginning, and Rome's is stained with blood and legend. According to tradition, it began in 753 BC. 2 brothers, Romulus and Remus, abandoned by fate and suckled by a she-wolf, fought for the right to build a kingdom. On the Palatine Hill, Romulus drew a line in the dirt. When Remus crossed it, the first sacrifice of Rome was made. Romulus became the first king, giving the city its name. Archaeology tells a humbler story of Iron Age huts and shepherds, but the Romans preferred the myth. They believed they were destined for greatness, descended from the Trojan hero Aeneas and the god of war, Mars. This conviction, this Roman gravitas, would propel a small mud brick village to become the center of the known universe. If Rome is a body, the Colosseum is its beating, violent heart. Known formally as the Flavian Amphitheater, this icon was completed in 80 AD. Imagine the spectacle: 50,000 citizens, from the elite in their white togas to the poorest in the rafters, all screaming in unison. Beneath the floor lay the hypogeum, a complex labyrinth of elevators and trapdoors where lions, tigers, and gladiators waited for their moment in the sun. It was a theater of death, yes, but also a masterpiece of engineering. Built in just 8 years, it utilized concrete and vaulted arches in ways the world had never seen. Even today, 2,000 years later, every modern stadium on the planet owes its DNA to this crumbling giant of travertine and brick. A few steps away lies the Roman Forum. Today, it looks like a graveyard of marble, but once this was the most important patch of earth in the world. This was the mundus, the center. Here, Julius Caesar spoke to the masses. Here, the Senate debated the fate of continents. To walk the Via Sacra, or the Sacred Way, is to follow the footsteps of triumphant generals and desperate plebeians alike. Look closely at the Temple of Saturn or the Arch of Titus. These weren't just buildings, they were propaganda in stone. They told the world that Rome was law, Rome was order, and Rome was forever.
If the Colosseum represents the might of the state, the Pantheon represents the audacity of the human spirit. It is perhaps the most perfect building ever constructed. When you step inside, the world outside, the noise, the traffic, the chaos of modern Rome simply ceases to exist. You are standing under a dome that has remained the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world for 2,000 years. Look up. That hole in the center, the oculus, is 30 feet wide. It is the only light source. On a sunny day, a beam of light cuts through the darkness like a spotlight from heaven. On a rainy day, the rain falls through, disappearing into the sophisticated drainage system below. The Emperor Hadrian, who commissioned this, wanted to create a temple for all gods. In doing so, he created a temple for all humanity. The math is impeccable. The height from the floor to the oculus is exactly equal to the diameter of the dome. If you were to place a giant sphere inside the building, it would touch every wall and the very top of the roof. It is a mathematical prayer, a testament to the fact that the ancients understood geometry as a language of the divine. Rome did not stay in the ancient world forever.
After the fall of the empire, the city slumbered in ruin, but like a phoenix, it rose again during the Renaissance. The popes, seeing the city as the seat of Christ, summoned the greatest minds of the age to rebuild Rome as the new Jerusalem. Think of it, Michelangelo, Raphael, Bramante, all walking these same narrow streets. Imagine a young Michelangelo, chisel in hand, staring at a block of Carrara marble and seeing the Pietà trapped inside, waiting to be released. In St. Peter's Basilica, he gave us a version of the Virgin Mary that is more human, more sorrowful, and more divine than any sculpture before or since. This period transformed Rome from a city of ruins into a living museum. They built the grand plazas, Piazza Navona, Piazza del Popolo, where the old obelisks taken from Egypt were repurposed to point the way to heaven. This was the era of La Rinascita. Rome became the stage for the most intense artistic competition in history, where the brush of a painter or the hammer of a sculptor could change the soul of a civilization. To stand in St. Peter's Square is to feel the weight of centuries of faith. The embrace of Bernini's colonnade, designed to represent the open arms of the church, gathers millions of souls every year. Whether one is religious or not, the sheer scale of the Vatican's influence is undeniable. It is a state within a state, a sovereign entity guarded by the Swiss Guard, whose colorful uniforms look like a painting from the 16th century. Inside the Vatican museums, the corridors stretch for miles. They hold the accumulated treasures of the world, the Laocoön, the tapestries of Raphael, and of course, the Sistine Chapel. Beneath that ceiling, Michelangelo spent 4 years of his life suspended on scaffolding, his neck bent in agony, painting the story of Genesis. It is said that when he finished, he had forgotten how to look at the ground. To understand Rome, you must taste it. You don't just eat in this city, you participate in a tradition that predates modern nations. Welcome to Testaccio, the belly of Rome. Centuries ago, this area was a dumping ground for the shards of amphora that brought oil and grain to the imperial city. Today, it is the home of the Quinto Quarto, the fifth quarter, the cuisine of the poor, which became the soul of the city. When the butcheries were the primary industry here, the workers were paid in the leftovers, the offal, the tail, the heart. They didn't complain, they innovated. They turned the coda alla vaccinara, oxtail stew, into a masterpiece of slow-cooked love. And then there is the holy trinity of Roman pasta, carbonara, armiciana, and cacio e pepe. It's simple, really. Guanciale, pecorino romano cheese, black pepper, and eggs. But in the hands of a Roman grandmother, these ingredients transcend food. They are history on a fork. It's the story of survival, of making something exquisite out of nothing. Rome in the 21st century is a paradox. It is a metropolis of 3 million people living inside an open-air museum. Imagine trying to build a subway line here. Every time they drill, they hit a tomb, a column, or a mosaic from the time of Augustus. The project stops for years while archaeologists carefully brush away the dust of centuries. It's not a headache for the Romans, it's a way of life. Look at the scooters darting between buses, the teenagers leaning against ancient walls, the old men playing chess in the park beneath a marble bust of a Roman senator. This is not a city that worships the past, it is a city that lives within it. The modern Roman doesn't feel oppressed by the weight of history, they feel supported by it. They drink from the same fountains that were built by the popes, and they walk the same paths that emperors walked. The continuity is seamless. There is no separation between the then and the now. When the sun dips behind the dome of St. Peter's, the city changes. The marble turns soft, almost translucent under the streetlights. This is the ora blu, the blue hour. It's the time when you should find a quiet alley, sit with a glass of Frascati wine, and just listen. The city speaks.
You hear the echoes of the chariot wheels on the basalt paving stones, the whispered prayers in the Pantheon, and the laughter of the Renaissance poets. Why do people return to Rome? Why does the city leave a mark on everyone who visits? Perhaps it's because here we are forced to confront our smallness. We realize that our lives are brief, and yet our capacity for beauty is infinite. Rome teaches us that even if empires fall, what we create, our art, our stories, our food, our love, can outlast the stone itself.